Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Make Your Good Business Great. Today, I am so thrilled that I have Steve Woody with me from Online Mastery, and he's going to go through everything we need to think about our online presence with our website. He's had a great journey and worked with some amazing people over the years. And without further ado, hi, Steve.
Hello, Kim. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's our pleasure. Now, tell us all about yourself, Steve.
Wow. Well, where to start? I'll sum up the journey very quickly because I don't want to bore people. We'll get into the value. But
we won't be bored.
I'm an ex-soldier. I was in the army for 6 years. I left the army. I went bankrupt. I was homeless 3 times. I lived in a car for 6 months, and I kind of hit rock bottom. And then in 2011, I had a daughter who was quite young. She was 2 years old, and I made a decision I was going to turn my life around. And so I looked at what I could do, what I had available to me in terms of my resources and what I was passionate about. And I enjoyed websites. So I dedicated sort of 3 years of my life to building websites and just basically consuming every bit of knowledge I could around personal development, around business development, about any type of growth. I was just a sponge. I spent 3 years absorbing that, and then I started to see slight results as well as some resistance.
Yep.
And in about 2014, when I had my company, it was officially launched, become a limited company. And then I spent the last sort of 2 years refining that company to the point of where it is today. And it's a successful global brand. I help thousands of people. I speak on stage with people like Les Brown. I've worked with Tony Robbins and done lots of things with lots of people where I've had the opportunity and the privilege. And I'm very blessed at what I do and where I am. And I'm very grounded at the same time because of the journey. So, yeah, I always come with the place of how can I help people.
Yep.
And obviously that's why we're here today, because I know I have a lot of value that I want to share, and I want to be able to give that to people so they can use it and take them steps on their journey, wherever it is they are.
Yeah, beautiful. And so obviously there's been a lot of high points and low points over those years while you were developing. Can you go through a few for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest challenges that I faced when I started was clarity.
Yeah.
And I find this is one of the biggest things I deal with now when I'm talking to entrepreneurs and business owners is getting in that clarity about knowing not only who you are, and the toughest question of always, what do you want to do, but also, you know, what it is you're doing and who you're doing it for. And especially when we dive into things like websites, I mean, these are questions that are so often overlooked because people tend to dive straight into I'm going to build a website, and they sort of skip that whole planning stage. And sometimes they skip the whole business strategy stage. And so one of the biggest challenges that I had when I started is I didn't have that awareness, and I didn't have anyone to guide me through that.
Yep.
That's why I do what I do now, because I know how much I need it in hindsight when I look back.
Yeah. And
so that was definitely a big one. And I think another one was always money. I've my entire adult life struggled with financial difficulty, and it wasn't until it was, and I'll be absolutely honest, it was only a couple of years ago that I become debt free for the first time in my adult life. And just to put it into some comparison, my wife, who we got married in November last year, for her to come to the UK, we had to meet certain visa requirements. And one of the immigration requirements we had to meet was I had to pay myself an annual salary so I could sponsor her.
Right.
And because of some complications with the visa process, well, with the lawyer that we hired, I basically had to pay myself an annual salary in 6 weeks. And so having the ability to be able to generate that sort of income, and we didn't borrow it, we had the money, and we generated just over £50,000 in a very short space of time. And so it works. And I know it works, but that in itself creates new problems, because then I had the identity crisis of, well, I've always struggled with money, and now I don't have that excuse because I know it's no longer an option to have that problem. So there have been challenges along the way.
And I imagine a few mindset challenges with that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich,
Yep.
if you know the book, is a great book. And I heard an interview once with Napoleon Hill where he said, I know I'm going to be successful because I'm running out of things to do wrong. And that's just me. I mean, the only reason that I have the privilege to sort of sit here and talk to you today is because I've done everything wrong and I know what to avoid.
Oh,
and that's how I built my business on just making mistakes. I'm very lucky now that I make mistakes very quickly.
Yeah, which is always what entrepreneurs and business owners want to do: fail quickly and move on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a terrific philosophy. And obviously, over the years, as you've tried, failed, been successful as well, you've actually sped up that process for yourself as well.
Yes, I've had to, because it's a survival mechanism. It's like you'll get to a point when you're on that downward trajectory that if you don't sort of pivot and change things, then and it happened a few years ago. I almost quit the business. I almost let the company go, and I almost went back and got a job. And I was looking at things. I become a chef in a kitchen for a month, and I promised myself I'd do it.
Yeah.
And what I realised is I can earn in an hour in my business what was taking me a week to earn as a chef.
Right. Correct.
And it was hard work as a chef, and I had to make the decision of what do I want to do. And now I'm very blessed. I have a beautiful home. I have a beautiful family. We have a beautiful life. And I'm not saying that to boast, or it's not an ego thing. It's just I know these systems work because I've implemented them myself first. Anything that I do or teach or train or work with, I've done. And so I know it works before I give it to other people.
So tell us about it so we can all have a bit of online mastery for ourselves.
Well, I've recently, and I say recently, this is in the last 6 months, I've rebranded. Because when I started, I just needed to get myself out there.
Yep.
And like a lot of people, you get out there, you do what you can with what you've got in terms of budget, knowledge, experience, and you sort of, you find your way. And it was only, as I say, recently that I rebranded. And when I did that, I had absolute clarity. And what that's given me now in that clarity is the rebrand is my logo. If you see it, it's Online Mastery, Plan, Build, and Promote Your Website. And so I work on those 3 core areas. We start with a plan, then we move into the build, and then we move into the promote stage. Because a lot of people will say, I need a website.
Yeah.
And it's a really dangerous thing to say, because you never need a website. You need a branding agency, you need a graphic designer, you need a developer, you need a therapist, you need a marketing agency. So many things that come with a website, and they're always hidden in that fluffy word of website that people mistake, and that's where a lot of the problems occur.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've said, well, look, let's break it down into stages, and everything I do is in the power of 3. Yep. So there's plan, build, and promote, and in each of those stages there's also 3 things. So in the plan stage, it really depends on how people want to plan their website. I always offer 3 solutions. And I know just before the interview when we were talking about this, the reason I do this is because I'm very aware that I was spending a lot of my time and a lot of my energy helping people that didn't have the financial means to reciprocate that value that I was giving. And I wanted to help people. And so rather than saying to people, no, I can't help you, I started to ask the question, how can I help them?
Yep.
How can I help people that don't have the financial means to pay me what I value my time to be?
Yep.
And that's when I started to productize myself. And so if somebody wants to work directly with me, that's great. We'll do a consultation. But if they don't have the financial means to pay for that consultation, then I have a book. And so it's given, I mean, it's £1,000 for a consultation, or it's £5 for a book.
Yeah.
And so I really have and the real difference there is I'll do it for you, or you do it yourself.
Right.
It's the time versus money.
Yes, of course.
And then in the middle, because I wanted to have a middle option as well, we'll do a workshop.
Yeah.
So I will take people through the book in a group environment. And so we have the book, the workshops, and we have the consultations, the one-on-ones. And I've done that through every stage in every part of my business. And it's kind of allowed me to help everybody that needs the help, those that can afford it and those that can't.
That's great. And given,
and so, yeah.
and given you know, we've obviously your workshops take a full day and we've only got a short period of time. What are your top tips for people who are, you know, they've got a website and perhaps not a lot of planning went into it, or they need to rebrand now because their business has grown and they've changed and developed themselves and their business? What are your top tips that people should be looking at?
Great question. I do a webinar. And it's part of my opt-in sequence. So when I'm attracting people to me, I normally use this. It's an evergreen process that I have. And I talk about the top 3 mistakes that most business owners make with their website. And so if you want, I'll share them with you. So
yes,
you
please.
have those.
Because I'm thinking of my own website too. So yes, please.
Well, here's the thing. The first of the 3 is very, very simple. I specialize in 2 main areas. I used to be a website developer. And I used to tell people that I build websites. I don't build websites anymore. I educate and I train entrepreneurs and business owners to either build their own website or at least have an understanding of what they need to build their own website, so they can hire the person and ask the right questions.
Right.
And so in that journey and in that evolution, because this has been a process that I've obviously uncovered, there are things that I've seen time and time and time again. And the 2 things that I focus on in my business is systems. So I'm not one of these people, I'm not in this residual income, sit on a beach and earn money automatically. I mean, it takes work. You have to put in work. You always have to put in work. But there are systems that can assist you in that job. You can't automate the process because nobody wants to have a relationship with an automated service.
Right.
You have to use the automated services so that you can have that personal approach with people. And so I use systems to help you in your day-to-day business. And the other side of it that I focus on is the customer journey. It's how do people, what is the user experience that people have when they come to your website?
Yeah.
And so in focusing on those 2 areas, there are 3 things that I found time and time and time again.
Yep.
The first of those is when somebody lands on your web page, your website, your landing page, your homepage, whatever page it may be, what is the outcome? What do you want them to do? And so many people often make the mistake of trying to do too many things. Every page should have one outcome. You should lead people through a process and get them to do one thing. And your question should be, what's next?
Yeah.
So if you land on my opt-in, I want you to sign up to my opt-in list.
Yeah.
If you sign up, what's next? If you don't sign up, what's next? Well, if you leave, then I'll retarget you. If you sign up, then I'll nurture you. And then we'll ask questions and we'll move on and the relationship will grow.
Yes.
And so in order to do that, when somebody lands on your website, the very first thing that you should have is a clear and compelling headline.
Yes.
You need to engage people straight away so that they know they're in the right place. And you need to reassure them at the same time that they're going to get what it is that they need.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if you're in business, it's because you're solving a problem. And so you need to let people know that you understand, you identify what their problem is, and you have the solution. And that's the first problem, is people don't do that. There's not always, and I've seen this, and I think in the figures that I run, in the hundreds and hundreds of tests that I did with people, about 70% don't have a clear headline.
Right.
So it's a really big thing.
Yeah.
And
so that a person lands on your site and doesn't really know what you're all about. They need to get that first message within a few seconds of landing.
Absolutely. And I mean, you only have to go to websites like Airbnb, Spotify, Uber. Look at the big tech companies that invest millions in this, and look at their homepage, look at their website.
Yeah.
They have a very clear, simple headline with a strap line that explains what they do.
Yes.
It engages both the logical, the creative right side of the brain and the logical thinking left side. It helps both people understand what it is that you do.
Yeah, terrific.
It captures their attention and it explains. So that's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
The second mistake that most people make is they don't have a clear call to action.
Yeah.
There's no obvious what's next. I just mentioned before about people going on a journey, but don't make it obvious on that next step. And so what you should do on your website is whatever your color scheme, whatever your color palette, whatever colors you have on your website, any button, and it should be an obvious button. You don't want to make people think too much. There's a great book by a gentleman called Steve Krug. It's called Don't Make Me Think. And it's about every time someone on your website has to think, it hinders that decision-making process.
Yeah.
And there's an opportunity for them to disengage with you.
Yeah.
So the more you make them think, the more opportunity they have to disengage.
Yeah.
And so it's about making it a smooth, and this is where the customer journey comes in. This is where the user experience, and this is what I look at is your website easy to navigate? Is it easy to understand? Is it easy to read? Is all of these things that build a website that make them very important to give a great user experience. And a call to action, and a call to action that stands out. Your button on your website that should be in plain view when they land on a website should be different to anything else, because it should draw the eye that that's where you want people to be looking.
What's your theory on pop-ups at the moment, Steve? What's your opinion, not your theory? My
opinion, that's a fantastic question. Shall I just cover the third point?
Go for it. Sorry.
No. I'm only because I can get lost in that conversation, and I know I will.
No, we'll go back.
The third thing, very, 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 very quickly, and it's very easy. It's two parts. It's analytics.
Yeah.
You would be amazed, absolutely astounded at the people that do not track using free software like Google Analytics.
Yeah.
They don't use it to track the data on their website.
Yeah.
That's part one. People don't track. The second problem is people who do track never use it.
Yeah.
So they'll set it up and then they'll never look at it, or they don't understand it.
Yeah.
And if you're in business, I mean, let's break it down to its absolute core components. The only outcome of a business is to be profitable. You as a business owner may have an objective, you may have an agenda, you may have things that you want to do, but if your company is not profitable, then it's not a business, it's a hobby. And there's nothing wrong with that, but people just need to identify and understand where they are.
Yeah.
Do you have a hobby or do you have a business?
Yeah.
Because if you can't pay your accountant and your tax bill and your overheads, then you're going to get shut down. So you have, like, a business, its only interest is survivability.
That's right.
And the only way a business can do that is by knowing the numbers. You have to know your data. And so it's a headline, call to action, analytics. They're the three biggest mistakes that people don't do.
Cool. So going back to step number 2, do you think the call to action should be on the site or come up as a pop-up? As a pop-up.
So I think that pop-ups which are used correctly work. But I think what a lot of people do is they'll pop up before someone's even come to the page.
Right.
You know, when you go to a website and the very first thing you get is a pop-up, what do you subconsciously do?
Shut it down.
So it doesn't work.
That's right.
I think that a pop-up works if it engages people at the right moment.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge that people have is that building a list is the most important thing you can do in a business. The only reason I've been successful is because I have a very large responsive database of people who I nurture to the point that if I have an opportunity or an offer and I put it to the people, and I don't put it to everyone. I don't spam my list. I value my list more than I value my firstborn daughter. Not my firstborn daughter, but I value my list more than I value anything, because that is my business.
Yes.
And I value my email address, and this is honest truth. I value my email address more than I value my credit card. I would rather give you my credit card details than my email address, because I can get a new credit card. I can't get a new email address. And so I am very, very conscious as to who I give my email address to. And so you need to understand that when you're collecting email addresses, you need to have that same respect for the people that are giving you their details as you would hope they would have for you.
For sure.
And so pop-ups, generic pop-ups, I don't agree with them. I don't think they work. As as I don't believe that subscribe here, and when people have sign up to my newsletter, no one wants to get a newsletter anymore. We have too many emails.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to get rid of newsletters. So what I tend to do with people is I look at other ways that you can engage people. So for example, I may have a free membership area on my website, which is very simple to set up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost anything. There are free plugins that can do this and free systems. But I would have a very simple free membership area, but people have to register to access this content.
Yes.
Thus, coming onto your list, but getting something much more valuable in return, videos, books, podcasts, anything that you can get together. Or even if you don't have anything in terms of the products or anything like that, collaborating with experts and getting them to offer things that you can put in there to do it. And there's always a way or an opportunity that you can create added value.
Great.
Because people always give you their details when they want something.
Yes.
And so and people don't want to pop up.
No. So that's great. So a membership area rather than a newsletter.
I found that to be substantially more responsive in terms of the engagement. And not only that, but with a newsletter, what will happen is if you do get people to sign up, they won't necessarily engage. They'll be very cold, and it could take a long time to nurture them.
Mm-hmm.
People, when you're giving the value, because they've already had value, they already know you, they've had that exposure to you in terms of videos or podcasts or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to communicate with them. And I found that my open rates in my emails are a lot higher through a membership sign up than through a newsletter sign up.
It's great advice. And going on to point number 3, analytics. What do you think people should be looking at and looking for when, it's not necessarily their mindset to be looking at their website analytics? What do you think they should be looking for?
Great question. So every business owner should be looking at 2 things. One is, are people visiting your website? That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Because if no one's visiting your website, then you have a problem. Or if people are visiting your website and they're getting lost, or things aren't working, or there's a bottleneck, it's breaking, you need to be able to identify that. Because normally people, what they'll do is if they have a problem, they'll just switch off, and you may be losing a lot of traffic that could potentially become a customer if you just fix or tweak a simple thing, like it could just be a link that's broken.
Yeah.
So I would always be looking for broken links, always be checking for broken links. And I have a plugin that as soon as there's a broken link that's detected, or someone tries to access a page that doesn't exist, I get a notification about it.
Ah, terrific.
So I would always recommend that. The second thing that I do is, I track everything. If you come onto my website, I can literally see where you're moving your mouse on my screen.
Right.
So I track absolutely everything in terms of the data, not to stalk people, but to have a better understanding of where there are problems. Yeah. I have funnels, and I have journeys, and I have goals, and I have conversions. And so I track where all of my traffic comes from. I know what traffic is effective. I know what traffic works. I know where that traffic goes, and I know where that traffic leaves. I know who purchases. I know who doesn't. And so I can turn on or off advertising, what does and doesn't work.
Yep. I
can monitor the conversion process. And if I have a button that doesn't work, or if I have a page that doesn't work, I use heat maps. And so I can see where people scroll to on a page and where people click.
Great.
And if they don't interact with me, then I can change that.
That's right.
You should always be adjusting. One of the things I talk about, and it's one of the chapters in my book, is about split testing.
Yeah.
You should always be running a split test, 2 variations with one very similar, or one different point, and you put half of your traffic to one page, half of your traffic to the other page with a slight variation, and you see which one performs better over a period of time. And you should always be doing that consistently, because if you're always doing that, then you're always going to be looking to improve.
Yeah, great. So a lot of people, I imagine, will say they don't have the time to, really delve in and analyze and do it well. What's your suggestion there, Steve?
Well, I think you're right. And I think there's three main objections. There's people don't have the time, and that is absolutely valid. My most valuable commodity on this planet is my time. And I want to protect that. And so I totally understand that other people want to do the same.
Especially when it's not one of your top skills or even top passions, We never have time for those things.
No, exactly. And you've just hit the nail on the head. The second is money. People always have an objection around money, and that just means that they can't see the value. Simple as that. And the third is, do they really want to be doing it? Because you could understand all of these things, but for example, if you're a coach, or if you've got a business and you've got something that you love doing, and websites are not it, then why would you want to put that time and effort and attention into something that you're not either passionate or you don't enjoy? It doesn't make sense. But the reality is, there is a trade. You're going to have to invest, and I don't say cost, I say invest, because it is an investment.
Yeah, I agree.
You're going to invest either your time or your money. And for most people, when they're starting out, they don't have the luxury of money. And so they have to invest their time.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well is, I think that if you're going to hire somebody to do something, you should understand how it works first yourself. That doesn't mean you should do it, but you should at least have the understanding. And that's exactly what I do. Yeah. I'm not saying that by doing my plan, I'm not saying that just because you know how to plan your website, you should build it. But at least then you know what questions to ask your designer, your developer, your marketing team. Yeah. At least you're prepared then, and you can avoid a lot of the energy, time, money, challenges that people face.
And that's always going to provide the best result at the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even if it's simply learning what not to do. Because even when you make a mistake, you have experience. You have the knowledge of what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so I don't tell people that I have the answer. I don't have all the answers. I have a framework that allows people to make mistakes securely and safely by mitigating the damage that's caused, and to maximize their gains. And that's all we do. That's all anyone can do in business. We're always going to have problems and challenges. It's just ensuring that we're bigger than them and that they don't cripple us.
It's great. It's a great tip. And Steve, we're just about finished, but what I want to ask is, what's like your favorite all-time business book, or the book that's given you the most juice? You can give
only
me
one
if you want to.
I think I need to go for two. So the two books that stand out for me, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
It's an absolute classic.
Total classic.
And How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Okay.
Two very
old school classics.
They're bread and butter, their foundation work. People talk about them and reference them all the time, but I'd highly recommend and suggest that you read them at least once a year. Yeah,
great tip. And who is your guru right now?
My wife.
Oh, beautiful.
She's superwoman. It's a full-time job just trying to keep up with her at the moment. No, I think I have several people that I look up to. I'm very careful when I refer to the words coaches or mentors. I don't believe that anybody needs just a coach or just a mentor or just a consultant. I think you need all three.
Mm-hmm.
And so in terms of my personal development journey, Tony Robbins has been a big influence for me. In terms of my business journey, somebody I look up to as a motivational coach is Eric Thomas. Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher. He's very, very motivational. And in terms of the business journey, Gary Vaynerchuk. I would say they're three people that stand out that I admire and I respect.
Great. Thank you. We'll have to look those people up and get our own mojo from them. So thank you so much, Steve, for being part of our interview process and our summit today. We have some information about you and links to all of your books, products, etc., so that people can start planning their effective website with and through your great tips and advice. Because it's something that, your website is your online brochure. It's often the first point of call people come to when they seek out your company. So it's imperative to make a really good impression that first time.
Well, I think one of the very important things as well is to understand that simply that word website, what's involved.
Yeah.
Is to understand the strategy behind the website, the design process that's involved, the development process, the systems, and to have an understanding, even just a general awareness. And the other thing that I would urge people to consider is that these days, and in the world that we're in and the place that we're at right now in terms of technology, a website is nothing more than a collection of landing pages.
Yeah.
And a landing page is just one individual page with a specific outcome.
Yeah.
And so every product, every service, everything that you do should have its own landing page, and it's a collection of those that make up your website. And so if people think of it like that, that's a very easy way for them to think about it. And if it's okay with you, just before we go,
the pressure off.
I would love to give the viewers a gift, if that's okay.
Oh, please. Everyone would love that.
I'm all about the giving. And I mean, hopefully the value's been there. But there's one thing that I've learned in my journey. And as from the start of the interview, I told you that I've come from rock bottom and I've gone through hell and I've just kept walking. And the only thing that's kept me going is action. You can learn so much, and you can read so much, and you can strategize so much, and you can actually paralyze yourself with information. If you don't take action, if you don't do something, it's absolutely worthless.
Yeah.
And so I'm inviting anybody who's watching right now. I'll give you a coupon, a specific coupon just for you and you can maybe put that in the description below.
Yeah, I will.
People can go and get a free copy of my book. So I normally, on my website, I offer a free chapter.
Yep.
And one of the things I do is very different. I don't know anyone else that does this. Most people would expect to have to put in their name and email address to get the free chapter. I don't believe in that. I think a free gift should be that. It should be a gift. And I think the moment you're asking for a name and email address, it's a transaction. Albeit it's a free one, it's still a transaction. So I give the first chapter of my book away. I don't even ask for a name and email address. I'm so confident that when people read it, they'll want the rest of the book.
Yay!
I'm not offering that here because I do that for everyone. I'm offering my whole book.
Okay, cool.
If you would like a digital version of my book, I'll give you a coupon. You can check out. You get the book, which is, you get a free copy of this, not the paperback, but the digital version.
That's right.
And they also get included a workbook, which they can work through. And if you go through the workbook, you'll have everything that you need to build or to improve your website.
Wonderful.
And so that's my gift to your audience.
Yay! Let's go plan our websites and make them great.
And take action. Just as long as if you do anything else, you just take action.
Absolutely. Great.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. It's been a pleasure having you here today. And, I look forward to, I'm going to download my own copy. So I look forward to all the great content that's in it. Thank you. You're a very generous, beautiful soul, and we wish you all the best.